Hello, and thank you so much for joining me on Climate Check. I'm your host, Mary Mwiikisa. Remember, this show is brought to you by Zanaco. Now, today I'm coming to you from Lukolongo area in Kafiwa district, and behind me is a sorry sight, maize fields that are totally collapsed because of the prolonged dry spell that the country has been experiencing in the recent past. And we were told by the Meteorological Department months before that this year we will experience the El Nino effects, which means dry spells. But unfortunately, as a country, we are accustomed to growing maize, and most small-scale farmers' farming methods are rain-fed. And so, as a result, we have a crop that has literally failed, which is unfortunate. And so today on the program, we'll be discussing crop diversification and putting it into perspective, because right here next to this farm is another farmer that grew sorghum. And so we'll discuss that with him. And also we'll talk to the owner of this farm. But for now, we'll take a break.
Imagine visiting a place and finding no greenery or vegetation. And because of this, these places remain inhabitable because the land holds no water to run through and no life as we know it to keep going. Imagine a world where the sun doesn't shine, it burns. It scorches everything it touches. There is no sense of cool at night, the balance of the air is polluted, all because you were unable to plant a tree. Join Zanaco as we plant 1 million trees to build the future we want to see. A sustainable and green-filled tomorrow. Plant a tree, save our future.
And to start with, I have a chat with Mr. William Chilufya. He is a farmer here in Lukolongo area under Kafiwa district, and he grew, apart from the maize, he also grew sorghum. We want to find out what triggered this decision to also grow sorghum besides the maize. And of course, I can assure you the sorghum looks amazing. And so let's talk to him. We are in the sorghum field, and the crop looks really good compared to the maize fields that we've seen around this area. Why did you decide to grow sorghum as well?
May I move backwards just a bit?
Yes. I decided to grow sorghum, first of all, based on the information that I was reading on the weather forecast. And then the fact that the rains really delayed to come. Then I was pretty sure. Conscience was telling me to say, no. I think it will be tough this year. Of course, I had to remember some years back when there was no rains, my grandfather had to decide to grow sorghum, had to decide to grow millet. So it was just simply going back to what I was oriented to, but more so inspired by the fact that there was already some information going out there to say rains will be very tricky this year.
Okay. And so far, how is your experience compared to I know that you grew maize as well. What's the experience between the two crops?
So, as you can see, sorghum is really inspirational. A number of friends, a number of neighbors here, they're really wondering and potentially maybe thinking that I'm a witch or something, because the sorghum is really promising, and definitely I have something on my table in terms of shima from this sorghum. But when you compare to maize, there's total and total loss. So I'm very pleased that I made that decision of growing sorghum. But I need to also mention that it was not an easy road to get sorghum. I remember I was actually going to Chipata. I had to call a few people after I had not seen it in Lusaka in the agro shops. When I was in Chipata, I was saying, it's okay, probably I can find it here. I didn't find it there. But then I called a colleague who runs, is it Good Nature Agro, Sunday. Then Sunday gave me some contact also gave me some contact. And that's how I managed to land myself on sorghum seed. So that's how the journey was. It wasn't smooth, but I was determined to actually find seed for sorghum.
We have heard the encouragement from government and other key stakeholders from the farming sector that we must take crop diversification seriously. And me being here on your farm, I'm seeing the reality of crop diversification and the fact that this is drought tolerant, the sorghum in particular. How can government go beyond the talk of crop diversification?
I think we really have to go beyond the talk. First of all, invest a lot in research, but also making these seeds that we talk about where we want to go as a nation in terms of education are valuable. Imagine, not many people out there, not many small-scale farmers are able to make a phone call to a seed company, to a certain agro dealer who's somewhere else. Well, it's a shame that when you walk in Lusaka, Kafue, all these agro shops, believe you me, you won't find the seed. So it's important to ensure that in all these agro shops, at least alternatives are present. All you find is maize. You won't find millet most of the time. The chances are like, maybe 0.1. You won't find millet, but maize, automatically you find it. And this is why a number of people now have gone through this huge loss, because the impression that is created out there when you go to an agro shop or many other seed companies, because of their huge investment in maize, is that maize is the thing to go for. Maize is what will give you salvation. But this has proved that to say you can actually go through a serious loss as a result of your focus on maize.
Okay. And how can farmers' mindset be changed to ensure that they consider crop diversification seriously? I say this because they know that every year government will buy maize, they'll have some money, and last year the pricing was good, and so everybody went into maize this year, and alas, we're here.
I think first of all, for me, it's not entirely up to the government. It's about you, the media, who has even taken time to actually come in to this farm, where the road has been really rough to come to this place. You really reaching out and getting this information out there. It's really important to show to the people that yes, in as much as we're crying over maize, but other crops are actually doing better than the maize. I wish we could see millet nearby. Also, millet, I suspect, is really growing well. We also need to change our tastes. We need to begin to dive into diversity. We need to begin to even eat for health, because other people will tell you, nutritionists will tell you that you are better off eating millet sorghum, because they're much more healthy, they're much more nutritious than the maize. So the moment that enters into your mind, your head, then you actually make an effort to say, okay, then why don't I grow this? So we need to grow the market. As farmers, especially the small scale farmers, when we know that this crop is going to give you money, then you know that we'll do anything on earth to actually go for that crop to ensure that we grow it and we sell and we make money. So it's about creating market, it's about creating demand for these crops, the diverse crops, and ensure that farmers, when they grow, they know that they'll be able to sell. And we need to talk more and more like what you're doing.
Let's talk about the food security pack, which mostly has maize and groundnuts the most as alternatives. Is it possible, maybe for us to start including some of these seeds in the food security pack, as we are distributing to the farmers under the FISIP, for example?
Yeah, it's really possible. And what's important is, I know that the government is focusing on legume, but when legume in terms of diversity, and also the maize, the cereals on the other side, but also let's look at the cereals, because it's a main player when you look at the FISIP and everything. Huh? So that maize, the maize that is there, let's have an alternative. Let's have millet, let's have sorghum. Our farmers will really be encouraged. I think at some point, I remember seeing sorghum at some point in a park some time back, but it hasn't been consistent. So we have to ensure that we prioritize. That's become our A game in terms of running away from such kind of disasters that we're facing in agriculture today. Let's ensure that we are really, really diverse in terms of the food security pack. And diversity doesn't mean that let's just put groundnuts on the other side. Let's put cowpeas, for instance, on the other side. But let's also show, okay, what to move hand in hand with the maize. Seriously, there's need for us to change our attitude from government to the consumer, passing through the farmer. So we have to ensure that we really are diverse in terms of thinking, in terms of research, in terms of growing our crops, to ensure that we can all have a good life through effective farming methods which are based on diversity.
The way government buys maize and stores it with FRA for future use, is it possible for government to consider buying some of these cereals so that maybe farmers can be encouraged to grow them, and then when it's readily available on the market and affordable, the consumers will go for it? Because I'll tell you, I walk into a shop now, if I buy millet or sorghum meal, it's expensive compared to the normal meal. It's a little pack and it will be very expensive.
Definitely. So what government can do, this is all about creating the hype on these other different crops that are thrown on the peripherals. So we need government to do that, and that will inspire and create more demand for startup of crops. It's amazing, like you're saying. Walk into a shop, find millet or sorghum, you find that it's way expensive than maize, and this is what it is now. It's got enormous use. The few people that I've told that have grown sorghum this year, okay, please, can we buy? Can we do what? They really want to pay me in advance, and I don't think that's the demand that maize is getting. So it's about us to get our priorities right. Do we want to be healthy? That's number one. Or do we want to lessen chances of losses? Do we want to ensure that we have a variety of foods among us? Those are questions that we have to keep on asking ourselves. And government, yes, if I know that government, in a liberalized economy like we are now, might not, have probably the resources to actually get all the sorghum or the maize and the like, but there should be that encouragement to ensure that private sector actually ventures into that. There should be promotion to ensure that people, get into that. But they should also, you and me, should also the key people, should also be the key people that should be promoting this sorghum by ensuring that we are buying it, we are consuming it, and not necessarily, oh no, me, I don't like the sorghum meat, sorghum meal and whatever. Being accustomed to the shima made of maize alone. So we need to move away. We now have to diverse our diet. We have to now to diverse our tastes, and that's very, very important.
Take me through the process of growing sorghum. Is it complicated? Maybe somebody would think, it's a difficult path, so let me just stick to maize.
Oh, for me, what happened is that I had someone had to plow this area, and we had to do lines, and all we did was to throw the seeds, and then we had to use our legs to actually bury. Yeah, and then the reason why we didn't want to use like a rake or something, because we avoided the sorghum to be overburied, and if it was going to be overburied, it was not going to shoot. Yeah. So then, after that, that was all. The next thing that we did was to ensure that we weed, and that is it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we didn't even put fertilizer.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
We didn't.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
Just
it.
plant and weed and
That's
you're
it.
good to go.
That's it. And this is an expensive crop on the market now. And imagine no fertilizer, no one. But the only thing that was a challenge to us is that I noticed that there are also armyworms that came to this. So we had to spray those armyworms, yeah. So that was the only additional cost apart from, the issue of just plowing, planting and the like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just thinking next season you'll be doing bigger. You'll be going bigger on the sorghum.
I'll do sorghum, but I also do millet.
Okay.
I might not even do sorghum because what I've noticed that so people around this area, I think they'll grow a lot of sorghum.
Yeah.
I want to try something else. I want to be inspirational to the community by showing them that you can actually diversify. So, God willing, if we come this year, I want to grow millet. God willing, the other year to be cassava. So I just want to be that person in the community whom people will recognize for going into uncharted waters and finding out how possible or not, and hoping that I can help to transform my community to diversify their diets, to diversify their cropping patterns.
Okay. And lastly, what's your word to your fellow small-scale farmers, especially that whether we like it or not, it may be this year, it may be another year, but climate change is here. The rainfall pattern is unpredictable. It's getting shorter and shorter. What's your word to them?
Well, let's pay attention to the advice that we get on the weather. That's really important. For me to grow sorghum this year is because I was concerned about the weather. And I've got a good colleague of mine who works for Met Department. He's in Southern Province. So often I can call him, hey, Bupe, how are you doing? Tell me, how's the weather like? Even when I've read, but I'd want to also confirm. And the guy normally gives me some kind of accurate information. Yes. Yeah, so it's important that we pay attention to what the Met Department is always telling us.
Now, the story of Mr. William Chilufya is inspiring and, of course, demonstrates what crop diversification literally means. And, of course, you can see his crop is healthy and thriving, and this is sorghum. This is a big contrast from where I was earlier on the maize field, which has dried up because of very little rain. And so right now I'll be talking to Mr. F. Nkamo, who is the owner of the maize field, which has literally dried up.
Konkoko aba bantu babola haulanga mumunda mwangu mapoga mbwawo nongega aladi bonyamba babona wonse agayuma mapoga ngu munda abenzu baba neba bonse so iso tuli mu mapenzi kuno inzara tulahwanza uno mwaga mutu gwahiriye ukamulange bonse olombalanga mama neba bangu mbwena chimwe wa mapo ambali bonya wonse miunda uno kulukolongo kuchiko sikumbo tukala kuno. Okay. Ino neba wangu yoga lima maira. Walo kwadi mwe. Chana famba utifena mujiwa. Sorghum. Kweve olo yangana kumbalu kwa mene niangana. Kweve kulibwino. Na kweve tipe mpako pangono utikapena. Tandizo ya utimunga tipaseko mbeu. Ya sorghum zisie. Utitika shange. Hapa ndiye pamene tapunzea na ife uti. Kansi sorghum. Si kufa na zuba. Ngati ifuna kufa. Ima balanso. Imaoneka bwino very green. Kumilisi talira kumilisi tavutika na milisi hivi. Chifukwa cha mvula zuba mwayo na mamene yabada disiye. Na mvula ya chedwa so manje pamene tikamba pano. Ina 2 days panje pamene kugwa. Manje milisi nawo nongeka kali ole igwe palibe chamene zatengolo kolola za kololo pangono.
Sure. So simunamvereko information yako ya mene wamaleta baku meteorological department amene bezouza abantu ku last year kuti next year kuzankala mvula ing'ono kaitaona abantu still mo banalima milisi but banakamba ati mvula sizapaka
but tinamvera banatiuza manje kabili chetekera tive tumachetekera milisi yamene tinzo ganza kuti kapena milisi kapena bana manama chabe kansi lero manje lero taziba naife chifua cha kuti tazionera vintu amene vichinjira si kuti pamene zimabwerera masiku onse vintu ziyenda kuchinja pang'ono nayo mvula yamba kuchepa so naive kuchinja pamene tifuna tichinje wayamba kulima sorghum amene taona kuti sorghum ingatanize ngati mvula sinaloke bwino amene ningakambire. Okay. Sure.
Vichamba meme mungabauze ko balimi banzanu kuno kwa meme mukala
so nuvezuma nubalimi intulo kuno tujinje kuyanga namolanga kuno kufamu yaba William Wairufya mbogulivonya numane babangu molibonena atujinche basa tuyange maila tutahuyima ningi mapoga ye example ko ili latunde hakuno uyanda muno mulolongo ingobola kulishiko primary school ingobolo yakulanga kuli bankama kumunda kuti ne baba Chirufya William akabola akalange mihambi ya kubeja mungabwele mungazionere bamene wafuna takabwele soga mwamene ionekela eve kusoga mpali benja lolo pangono zoona
so kumambili siku mwenze mwana kudana ma fertilizer na vonse ulo mangena ndrama ya mbili then waluza
uma fertilizer nafa kama box okwana 8 manje pali be si kuoneka chabe ni brown chabe na onse fertilizer yangena pansi so aya ni malosi kaya kapena zachita bwanji kapena voma izakati pasa so to fertilizer chaka chama wakasti zibabwino batu kweve mwazionera boyangana abantu bamene tinabo milisi nafa kale palibe cha kuti ningateko roshani ulo kalimozi ka kobo singakapezeke. Sure.
Imagine visiting a place and finding no greenery or vegetation. And because of this, these places remain inhabitable because the land holds no water to run through and no life as we know it to keep going. Imagine a world where the sun doesn't shine, it burns. It scorches everything it touches. There is no sense of cool at night. The balance of the air is polluted, all because you were unable to plant a tree. Join Zanako as we plant 1 million trees to build the future we want to see. A sustainable and green-filled tomorrow. Plant a tree. Save our future.
You talk of diversification. If you could have noticed what we did the last planting season, we gave out 8 different types of seed. 8 different types of seed. All along would give 2 or 3, but we went further and gave out 8. And people absorbed that and accepted the seed and planted. This included millet, sorghum, groundnuts, sunflower, cowpeas, actual beans, rice, things which we never used to give. So, in as far as I'm concerned, the farmers are adapting. Farmers are a very cautious group. They will not just jump into a change like that. They will take time to appreciate what you're talking about. So, in as far as I'm concerned, the weather is also teaching us to be careful and to diversify what we plant. Those farmers who have some cassava, for example, will notice that they have something to eat. I've got a colleague who was just calling me today. That farmer planted millet, and it has done so well. Another one planted sorghum. Okay, sorghum, millet, they are all millets. It has done so well. And he was saying, when I look at my sorghum field and I look at my maize field, the maize has been affected much more by the drought. So this shows that let us get back to what we used to eat. We used to eat a lot of sorghum in this country. We used to eat a lot of millet in this country. Let us get back to the basics and diversify what we put on the table. In that way, we will avoid hunger.
This is it for Climate Check this week, and we'll leave you now with highlights of the CARE International launch of the new project called Community-Based Adaptation, Scaling Up Community Action for Livelihoods and Ecosystems in Southern Africa and Beyond. Our staffer, Zachariah Nyimbili, covered the event and brought us this report.
In a landmark initiative aimed at combating climate change, a pivotal moment for climate action in Southern Africa, as CARE International Organization and its collaborative partners unveiled the BMUV IKI-funded initiative, Community-Based Adaptation, Scaling Up Community Action for Livelihoods and Ecosystem in Southern Africa. CARE International Chief Executive Officer Chikwe Mbwedwa said the project will go a long way in contributing towards our desire to see a society that is free from poverty.
This project we're launching today is very crucial and strategic, as it comes at a time when climate change is reaching alarming levels in our country and is deeply disrupting livelihoods and ecosystems. The project will therefore go a long way in contributing towards our desire to see a society that is free from poverty. Guest of honor, sir, the CBS Scale Plus project provides a great opportunity to leverage our tested approaches, such as the Farmer Field Business Schools, the Village Savings and Loans Associations, social analysis and action, to mention but a few.
Meanwhile, German Ambassador to Zambia, Her Excellency Annie Wagner Michel, said climate action should be a highest priority for a testcraft and ought to be present in local decision.
Climate action should be and is a component of the highest level of statecraft, but should also be present in local decisions.
Minister of Green Economy Representative Kasanda Bunda said the project is aimed to empower local people, especially women and girls who are quite vulnerable to climate change challenges.
The project aims to empower local people, especially women and girls who are quite vulnerable to the challenges of climate change, to take ownership of their futures, to innovate and to adapt in the face of adversity.
Meanwhile, Chief Chinyanta of Zimba District has welcomed the move in his chiefdom.
Zimba District, Kalomo, and Kazungula are the southernmost districts of Zimba, or Zambia rather. And they are the driest. Even before climate change took, all right, it has been coming slowly. And so we welcome
this project.